What's going on, good listener? Welcome inside a brand new week of the Tall Can Audio Podcast, your Monday edition, albeit a little bit late. Matt Robinson with you as always. Hope you all had a fantastic long weekend. Some of you still enjoying it. I know this is one of those holidays where some of you get 3 days, some of you get 4 days. Hope, regardless of what it looked like for you, you have enjoyed it. We are on social media at Tall Can Audio. We'd love to talk to you there. And make sure you are following the podcast wherever you're hearing me right now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Wherever you are, there's a follow button. There's a subscribe button. We'd love it if you'd subscribe and join us as things are heating up. The baseball season is underway. The NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs just around the corner. CFL dead ahead. The World Cup is going to be here. Got a couple of interesting guests lined up when that gets a little bit closer as well. So stay tuned to the Tall Can Audio Podcast. We're going to talk to our buddy Joshua Howsam here in a moment. He was here, well, just once, but he is one of the prominent voices on Blue Jays Twitter. He was here back in the fall during the Blue Jays playoff run. Had a lot of fun talking to him, so I asked him if he'd be willing to come back and talk about what has been a bit of a wobbly start for the Toronto Blue Jays. Can we call it? They're 4-5 as we sit here right now on Monday, ahead of a 3-game series against the LA Dodgers. So it could be worse. It certainly could be better. There's been some injuries. There's been some poor performances. But at the end of the day, you're still right there. You're right in it. The fan base, not in a good place. Not in a good place in a lot of cases. We'll get into all of it with Joshua here in a second. But you know where we like to start on a Monday. Okay, that's a nice crack. Good and nice and crisp to start things off, right? This is the Marco Polo, an Italian Pilsner from the Indy Ale House Brewery, 5%. Those of you who have been around here for a while know that Italian Pilsners, not always my favorite style. I do like a good Czech Pilsner. Something with a little snap to it, right? Something that's got a little cold crisp to it. There's something about the Italian style that just doesn't speak to me in quite the same way. This kind of falls into that realm upon the first taste here. I should give it a second chance. Yeah, like it tastes like a Pilsner, but without that Pilsner quality, right? That crispness up front. So it's not a bad beer, certainly, but just sort of falls into that trend that I have of not always loving this particular style of Pilsner. But the Indy Ale House down in Toronto typically does some nice stuff. So if you're into Italian Pilsners while you sit down and watch your Blue Jays baseball and you're in the greater Toronto area, probably worth a trip in. The fact that this style in particular doesn't speak to me does not speak to the quality of their beer, because just about everything else I've had out of theirs, pretty nice. Look, as you guys know, kind of a radio guy. Took broadcasting in school, learned all the radio stuff, and this is that moment where I'm supposed to do a nice segue. And one of the keys to a nice segue is not telling people that that's what you're doing. But I got to tee up a guest here, and so I have a choice to make as I take you behind the curtain. This is an Italian Pilsner from a Toronto brewery. So do I mention that our next guest, Kevin Mickey from Sportsnet, will be on the podcast for the first time since we spoke to him at the Olympics in Italy back in February? Or do I tee him up as coming to us from the Big Smoke, from Toronto, the home of the Indy Ale? You guys can see why I ran into a bit of a problem here, because I'm just not very good at this, at making hard decisions. It will be Kevin Mickey from Sportsnet. We'll talk some baseball with him as well. No doubt we'll talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just over a week away now, a week and a half away. Right around the corner. And we'll get some final impressions from Kev on working in Olympic Games. Look for that to drop on Wednesday. Kevin Mickey there also works for the Toronto Scepters of the PWHL. And the league put out a little bit of a statement here on Monday I want to get to as well on behalf of the Ottawa Charge. Back in November, many of you will remember that the head coach of the Ottawa Charge, Carla McLeod, had announced that she would be stepping away for one game at the time but that she was battling breast cancer and had to undergo treatment to get that taken care of. She was very optimistic at the time and said that she was going to be fine. No update on how she's doing in this statement, but it says that for a little while, she will be stepping away from behind the bench. Assistant coach Haley Irwin will take over in an interim capacity for now, but this is part of Carla's treatment, and so she'll be stepping away for from the team for the next little while she continues her treatment. So I just wanted to mention that here. Obviously, everyone at TCA is pulling for Carla, hoping everything is going as it should as far as her treatment goes. And obviously, everyone in the Ottawa Charge fan base and the Ottawa sports community is pulling for Carla McLeod. And look, McLeod's a grinder. We all know this from having watched her over the years. She's going to put up a fight, but just like to add our name to the long, long list of names that are in her corner right now and backing her as she continues this fight. So much love to Carla McLeod. And on behalf of everyone here on TCA, take the time you need, and can't wait to see you back behind the bench down at TD Place. If you missed it, over the course of the Easter weekend, we put out a Friday edition, a Good Friday edition. I can't call it a good edition of the show. You get to be the judge of that. We talked a lot of Ottawa Senators notes there. The renewed TV contract with TSN, what that means for TSN 1200 and the talk radio, sports talk radio thing that's going on all day, what it will mean for those guys. Certainly the controversy around Brady Tkachuk and his podcast, everything. There was some mixed reactions to my thoughts on that. But that's up now at tallcanaudio.com or wherever you're hearing us right now. As I said, Kevin Mickey will be here on Wednesday. We've also touched base here recently with our buddy Chris Hoffley, who, since stepping away from OSEG, has been less prominent in the Ottawa sports talk landscape, but not less prominent around here. We still want to talk to that guy. We want to get him in here for a beer or two. So look for that in the coming weeks as well. Lots of good stuff coming up on the podcast, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you're hearing me right now. With all that out of the way, let's get right to it here. We're happy to welcome back to the show a guy who we heard from during the playoffs in October, and so it's just your second time here, man. Appreciate you doing it. Joshua Howsam, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, and I guess always, it's only the second time, but I like your show, so I'm really happy to come on.
Well, I appreciate that, and like you said, I know it's been a busy weekend for you, so making a little time for us on a Monday, certainly appreciate that. And I don't know, we're about to play the Dodgers. From what I can see on Twitter, is there any point? Like, the season's over based on what I've read, man. I want to ask you about this a little bit. The conversation that goes on around baseball that is so much different than other sports, whether it be hockey or basketball with an 82-game season, football with a much shorter, I don't even know what they're doing now, 18 games, or I'm just curious, man. How do you kind of deal with this in the early season? Because for me, look, I get emotional during the games. I want to win every game, and when they play like shit, I got no problem saying they played like shit. And when they play like shit for a week, I've got no problem saying that you got to pump the brakes somewhere before they are shit and the season is lost. And it's just one of those sports that forces you to zoom out more than others. I'm sort of curious, man. What do you do with the discourse at this time of year?
Yeah, I really just tried to turn it off because you're right. You can just really get bogged down. I had someone tweet at me, last year was a mirage. This is the real team, as if they're like their team that's literally the worst in baseball if you consider their opponents or among the worst in baseball. It's just the nonsense that people come up with. I think, though, when it comes to, it's just sort of, you have, like you said, like you could say like they played horribly.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean they are horrible. And that's just like, I imagine that most people who are even have like a shred of rationality to them would think that way. So you just kind of have to tune out the rest of it. But there is an element of, it still matters because in a schedule, you only have so many soft spots.
Yes.
The Jays June, I believe, is just a death month. It's just like very few off days, and they're all good teams. So these are the kind of the ones that you still got to bank these, right? So it's not that it's like, and I'm not trying to say anything serious about it. They won 4 out of 9, so it's not like they lost all 9 or
right.
But you only get, as I was saying, you only get so many series against teams that should be pushovers. and you kind of got to bank them, or you don't get those chances later on. So it's a bit of a missed opportunity, but obviously it still means nothing for the long term.
Well, this is it, right? And I get into this, I used to. I'm beaten down on this now. But when it comes to the Leafs, and I don't want to talk hockey with you here. They have this reputation, or had, of a great regular season team who would just go down in flames in the playoffs, right? And when it was over, there would always be this contingent of Leaf fans that said, I'll see you in April. Like, I don't even care about the regular season anymore. And that's fine. Like, I don't like to tell other people how to fan. You do what you want to do. I enjoy the sport. I want to sit down throughout the season and watch these games. And when you do that, you get a little emotional night over night. And, this one went good and this one went bad. And more often than not, because they were a good regular season team, it was a good night. It was fun to watch the games until April. But then baseball forces you to kind of do this thing where it's like you have to almost treat a series the way you would treat a game in any other sport, right? Or and it's just a harder switch to flip, or it's harder to, like, I want to engage in each game. I want to care that Heineman threw it away again, or whatever. And I do care. I get flustered. It's just it's a question of pumping the brakes somewhere shy of they suck, it's over, tear it down, right? But it is hard. Like, I get as emotional as some of these people, and it takes me a minute sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. But, one thing about that, when mentioning about the Leafs fans and the April and all that, if you don't feel these things watching your team, I don't really even get the point.
Right.
Right? Like, I watch baseball because I love baseball,
sure.
And I watch the Jays because I love the Jays, and I don't want to just be emotionally detached from it, because what's the point of that? I mean, life is about feeling things.
Yep.
So, yeah, I can feel things about watching Brandon Little go out and throw a gas can on the thing, but still understand that it's been 9 games out of 162. So,
yeah, you probably saw it floating around on Monday. I can't remember who had it first, but someone had quoted Eric Lauer and his approach to this Dodgers series, or, his comments ahead of this Dodgers series, saying, you know what, maybe this is, and I'm obviously brutally paraphrasing here, but maybe this is the thing that gets everybody locked in. Like you mentioned, we just played 9 games against teams that aren't expected to be very good. It didn't go all that well. You don't have a lot of these opportunities later, but maybe seeing these guys again and what went on in October and knowing that they're good forces you to focus a little more and lock in a little more. I'm not suggesting the Jays looked past the Rockies or the White Sox, but do you buy into that at all? I thought it was an interesting comment, at least from Lauer. Do you think there's something to it?
Something. I don't know if I would say that it's like the kind of thing that should just flip a switch, but I definitely believe the idea that you come off this crazy season and you come out and you're facing the nomadic Athletics, the Rockies, and the White Sox. And it's just sort of like, man, like, we just finished 7 games in one of the best World Series ever against the Dodgers. No, that's not my framing, because the Jays lost, so it can't be one of the best World Series ever.
But one of the most traumatic.
Right. That's a better way to put it. It can be just tough to emotionally elevate yourself. And look, people say they're athletes, they should be able to. They're also people. So I do buy that the need and the energy of this Dodgers series and the rematch of the World Series could help them get through whatever they're doing. I don't necessarily think it will, but I believe that it could.
Sure. Well, let's talk about a couple of guys here specifically and a couple of things that have happened. But before we do, we did hear a little bit of news over the weekend that they've signed Patrick Corbin, $1 million, so it's no risk, and they are kind of struggling right now for starting depth. That shouldn't be a prolonged issue as reinforcements are on the way. But what do you make of that move, man? It caught me off guard. Like, just that name in general was not one I saw coming.
Yeah, I definitely did a double take. Like, wait, what? Huh? I saw a story. I think it was Ben Nicholson Smith saying the Jays have had serious talks with a free agent starting pitcher. I'm like, oh, Lucas Giolito, maybe. Yeah. But then when you think about where they are, Patrick Corbin actually makes more sense, because Lucas Giolito is not going to sign and be like, yeah, but you might be DFA'd in 2 weeks.
Right.
Patrick Corbin's probably like, I'll take the $1 million and we'll see. And it's so funny that we're at this point. Like, they had 8 major league starters. Yes. And we're a week into the season, and we need Patrick Corbin. Yeah, so I think it's fine. Like, Patrick Corbin kind of had a bit of a career resurrection the last couple of years. You know, he was a great pitcher for a long time.
Yep.
And then he was the worst pitcher in baseball for a long time. it's kind of strange how that happened. Yeah. And then last year he was serviceable with Texas. You know, and serviceable as a fill-in until you Savage or Barrios is ready. Fine. You know, you'll take that for $1 million. It's only money for Rogers, right?
This is it. Yeah, like you said, I kept expecting, not that they would sign Giolito for exactly the reason you just brought up. That guy's not interested in being a 3-week Blue Jay and then being DFA'd again. If they were going to look for help, it was going to come from somewhere else. I don't know why the name Patrick Corbin had slipped my my consciousness or whatever. Maybe it shouldn't have, right? I guess Max Scherzer gave him a good word, put in a word for him. So I don't know. We'll see how that looks. I guess he looked good at single A Dunedin over the weekend. And I guess he was already sort of ramping up, similar to what Scherzer did before reporting to camp. So maybe it was no more complicated than he's the closest to ready to pitch for us right now.
Yeah, and look, you'd be forgiven for having it slip your mind that Patrick Corbin was a guy.
Yes.
I mean, from 2021 to 2024, his ERA was 5.71. Yeah. You know, it's not a guy you typically want. So Anyway, well, Corbin is the Blue Jay we'll see. I'm guessing he'll probably be up for the next time they need to start it, though.
I don't know where else you'd turn. Like, it must be, that has to have been the thought. So we'll see what that looks like. I'm sort of curious as we look back at the first 10 days of the season and assess where we're at. And, you know, we kind of covered that there are two sides to the debate right now. There are people out there saying, just calm down, it's early, and they didn't climb over 500 last year until the end of whatever it was, May. And all of that's fair. And the other side of it is they don't look right. They're chasing. The at-bats are frustrating, which they certainly have been. And this team isn't real, and they're going to miss Bo, all of this stuff. Obviously, reality is somewhere in the middle. They're 4-5. It's not a disastrous start, but when you put it in the context that you correctly did, that it's more about who you pissed away those games to and aren't going to get another crack at, that's frustrating. What stands out to you the most after the Rockies series and the White Sox series about what is happening to this team right now?
Oh boy. Well, I think it's the biggest thing is that there are guys that need to be better. You know, like Okamoto surprisingly has had some success, but he's also struck out 17 times in 39 plate appearances, and a lot of them in key spots. And that's just an adjustment period that he's going through, right? The strike zone is a little different. The ball moves a little differently. When he hits the ball, he hits it really well, but he's just striking out a ton. And then they had some bad ball luck, but also some ugly at-bats. Guys like Barger and Springer particularly have had rough at-bats. And I just think that it's just stuff that is really magnified early on when a team is struggling, because there's nothing else. Like when it happens at the beginning of the season, it's not like that one 10-day stretch in August where some guys are horrible because they have all the numbers to back it up. It's like, this is all this guy's done so far this year.
Right. It's kind of I don't know, for me, when I look at them, like you said, it's not just the timing, which is absolutely part of it. This is the only sample size we have right now, so it's everything. But it's also that it's all happening at once, right? Like if Barger goes into a slump at some point, and then 3 weeks later, Springer goes into a slump, and then you can kind of absorb that and carry each other. But it's just kind of all happened at once, and that's the part that is frustrating. And in theory, that should mean they all come out of it together and get going and whatever else. Maybe that would be one optimistic way of viewing it. But yeah, it's been tough to watch. And like even Vladdy, he's got a 139 WRC plus right now. Like everything looks fine on paper, but they're all singles, right? Except he did get the one dinger there against Anthony Kay, a blast from the past there over the weekend. But it's just kind of things happening in weird ways all at the same time, all at the beginning of the season. And I do think fans almost came into this season, or at least a certain type of fan or a certain number of fans came into this going, I wonder how real last year really was. And the first impression they're being given is, aha, all those flaws I thought might be there and that these guys were frauds is being played out for me right now. And I like we said, it's too early to know that for certain. I don't believe that that's the case, but that argument is being solidified for them, at least at the moment.
Yeah, well, we'll get to them, I'm sure at some point. But added the Brendan Little and Jeff Hoffman of that, I mean, it's like the people with the worst opinions are the ones who are just being validated right now. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't help too that, I mean, if you look at how these guys are performing, there's people playing poorly. Like Okamoto, I think he's still playing below what he would say is his he should be playing, but
sure.
he's been still good. And then there's people who are playing really badly. Like Addison Barger has an OPS plus of negative 19.
Yeesh.
Theoretically, you shouldn't be able to be more than 100% worse than average, right? But but that's how bad he's been. He's 1 for 19.
Yeah.
And, and Varsho is like 5 for 29
Yes.
with one extra base hit.
What's the contract
and Kirk
here?
was not hitting at all. And it's just sort of like, there's bad and there's awful. And when you have four guys being awful at once, it's just really hard to score runs.
Well, let's talk about Brendan Little, because he is one of those guys that is similar to the team, in and of itself. Like, you have one side of the argument saying it's still early, give it some time, and this is too small of a sample size, and the other side going, he is lighting the games he comes into on fire. It was finally on Saturday, he gives up 2 home runs to 2 lefties. That was, I don't want to say the nail in the coffin, because I'm not convinced he's done, but it did finally lead them to send him down to the minors. The 2 home runs, the stat going around was that it matched all the home runs he gave up last year. So there's clearly some talent there, but body language was bad on top of the pitching being bad. Sort of, where are you at with him right now? Do you believe he can be rebuilt down in Buffalo and may yet contribute this year? Or is this one of those guys who may yet go on to be fine and have a good career, but may need a change of scenery?
Well, I think he can, but so the thing that really baffled me about the Brendan Little we saw this year. So, start of last year, he's the best reliever in baseball. Second half, people realize everything he throws moves down, so they're just going to stop swinging because it all moves down and out of the zone.
Right.
And he becomes bad. So this spring, everything we heard was he's got this 4-seamer up to 98 and this slider that he can do for different planes. One more laterally moving and one not dropping. And it's like, okay, that could really change it. And then he comes out and he's not using the 4-seamer.
Right.
It's like he's doing the exact same thing. So in that game against the White Sox, the nail in the coffin, as you said, the proverbial nail, I guess, because I don't think he's done either. But he did not throw a single 4-seamer, and he threw 1 slider, maybe 2. One was classified as a cutter, but I think and he just threw a sinker curveball again. It's like, what is the point of going through all this work to fix something and then not using it? And I even remember it was after the A's game where he struggled.
Yeah.
Pete Walker or John Schneider, one of them said, is like, yeah, we didn't like the pitch mix. We didn't like what he's doing. And it's like, okay, but he's still doing it. So I wonder if it's just sort of a competitive level that he's not confident enough in those offerings yet, so he doesn't want to
reminds
throw.
me a little of Kikuchi, doesn't it? They asked him to make some changes that he wasn't ready to make. He didn't seem to be ready to do it. And when he finally did buy in, things worked. But at first, it was a major struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a really good comp. So, yeah, maybe Kikuchi didn't get a minor league assignment. He just had an off season. But maybe Little just needs some time. It's like, go do it in real games, not spring training games where you can, be knocked out and then come back out the next inning. None of that nonsense. These games actually count in the minor leagues, but we don't care if you get hit. Go do it there and get used to it and then come back. I believe that could work, but the body language, as you alluded to, has to change. I mean, the guy has the worst mound presence of anybody in the major leagues right now.
And it's not going to help, if fans are booing him. And I don't tell people how to fan. Like, do what you want to do if you're emotional about it. But that's not going to help somebody's confidence. And then the fact that he looks like it becomes this, repeating cycle of he looks beaten down while he's being beaten down and hit around. And it's not a good scene. I got no beef with the idea that, look, we still think there's something here, but we got to airlift you out of here right now and get this fixed. Plus, the Jays are already in a situation where the season is far from lost, but we need to stabilize things here right now. And we've got to get an arm in here that I don't know that Joe Mantiply would have been my guy, but, whatever. It was something different. It made sense to do this. But, yeah, I just come back to the fact that I don't think at all that means he's done. And I don't even think it means he's done with this organization. Let's go and get this rebuilt somewhere else, out from under the spotlight. But like you said, all the reports were coming out of spring. He's made a bunch of changes. It's pretty irrelevant if you're not going to use them. So let's talk about Jeff Hoffman for a second. You did reference him. For me, a little bit of bad luck there. And even in the Brendan Little thing, like the one in extra innings, he's on the mound when the guy comes around from – it's a ghost runner. Like, to me, people like to pile on. That one wasn't him. I thought for the most part, especially against the A's, I guess it was, like – I know Hoffman got taken deep again, but that's a great pitch that Langeliers goes down and gets. Sometimes you got to tip your hat. Like you said, though, sometimes it's just timing. The fans are not ready to see you giving up a home run. Yeah, exactly. Have you seen anything out of Jeff Hoffman that gives you reason for optimism, gives you reason for concern, or is it just life as a closer?
I think he's looked fantastic.
Yeah.
He's got 11 strikeouts in 4 2/3.
Right.
No walks. Yeah, like you said, the Langeliers pitch, he wanted a little higher, I think, out of the zone, but his fastball is back up in the 97, 98 range, which it had fallen down into the 94, 95 by the end of last year. His slider looks good. His splitter looks good. Honestly, I think he's been truly excellent. I'm very confident in him. I mean, also, like, the home run was crappy.
Yeah.
And then, the other blown save, which is like, and he gets the loss too, was he comes in with the ghost runner, ground out, strikeout. So there's 2 outs, and then the guy bunts, and the new catcher, because Alejandro Kirk gets injured, Heineman throws the ball into right field, and the next guy hits a single to win the game. It's like, he got 3 outs, even though they scored at a single. Like, he should have gotten out of that with a win or a save, but instead it's a loss, because baseball is a dumb sport. But no, I think he's fine.
Yeah.
A dumb sport that I love.
No, I'm with you on that, man. What about the loss of Kirk here? Because this is, and I don't know if you had a chance to hear it yet, and I don't want to take their stuff from them, but I was, just before we started, while I had lunch there, I was listening to Arden and Ben on At the Letters. And Arden was sort of pointing out all the extra things that you don't really think about with the loss of an Alejandro Kirk, right? Like how it might impact your rotation a little bit to not have that guy behind the plate that they're comfortable. How maybe innings take just a little longer, so pitchers throw a couple more pitches that they wouldn't used to, which keeps the fielders all on their feet just a little bit more. Like, he is perhaps the most indispensable guy on the team, certainly in the top 3. I know they're very high on Brendan Valenzuela. We'll see what that looks like. I think they're very immediate. I haven't seen the starting lineup for Monday night here as you and I sit and talk. It's probably not out yet. I'm sure their immediate thought would be, yeah, Heineman is higher on the pecking order, and he had a tough weekend. We don't want to crush him by benching him now, so I assume he'll be in there on Monday night. I could be wrong on that. But just, what do you think of, we don't know yet how long Kirk's going to be out, but just what this team looks like without him and who's going to be most impacted by it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Arden and Ben, and I tweeted something similar about, like, if you look at that A's series, Kirk stole like 30 strikes that weren't changed with ABS because people don't challenge in low leverage spots unless they're flat. But yeah, with nobody out, nobody on, and a 1-0 count, they don't challenge because it's not worth being wrong if it's not egregious.
Right.
And he stole a ton of strikes, and ABS doesn't change that. And so I think that the biggest difference with Kirk is we will see some negative regression for some of the pitchers. I think Gausman especially will be affected because of how much he pitches with his splitter just below the zone, those pitches that Kirk steals best.
Right.
And I do think he's the least replaceable because, as we said, like Heineman and Valenzuela, look, as you said, Heineman's a disaster 24 hours for Tyler Heineman. But he's better than that.
Sure.
And Valenzuela is a good defensive catcher. I don't know how much he'll hit. But even if you lose Vlad, it would suck, obviously, because Vlad's your best player. But you could put Okamoto at first, Barger at third, and then Lucas in the outfield. Or you could call up Eloy Jimenez and put him at first base or something like that. And you have viable major league regulars that you could put in place. They don't have that with Kirk. So it's a big blow. You hope that these guys can just sort of weather the storm a little bit, but it hurts.
It is interesting the spot they find themselves in right now. When you look at Heineman, who the staff all would have familiarity with, he's been around for a while now, and he is your number 2. But I think the ceiling most people would suggest on Valenzuela is higher. Do you think, we'll get the diagnosis on Kirk here sometime early this week, I believe we were told. Do you think there's a chance that by the end of this, Valenzuela is taking more games than Heineman by the time Kirk gets back? Or is that going to be too fast, too soon, and he's not going to be quite ready for that?
Oh, I could definitely see it happening. I don't know if I would say I would assume it. They traded for him to be their long-term backup to Kirk. Heineman, I think if Heineman didn't have the random season he had last year, he wouldn't even be on the team.
I think that's right. He's just a guy, right?
I think they would have tried to get someone better as their backup with Valenzuela as the depth. But Heineman had such a good year, they're like, okay, fine, we'll run it back with you. And we've got this other guy. Because he has a very good defensive reputation. He's not much of a hitter, and he's not young, right? He's 25.
Right.
So I do think that the hope would be that he plays his way into the starting gig, because I do believe they're higher on him than Heineman, but I don't know if I would assume it'll happen.
Yeah, and what it does to your clubhouse and stuff like that, to have this rookie jump Heineman right away, and it happens, but I'm not sure they would be pushing to get there. We'll see what he shows, right? You're kind of in a situation where whoever's playing better, just let him go, and we can kind of see how it plays out from there. This is, you and I are speaking hours before Game 1 against the Dodgers. Scherzer going out there again tonight. I don't know how, what kind of fan you are necessarily. Like, this is going to be one of those series where we hear a lot about October/early November. I don't get, like I said, when I think about Game 7 and everything else, I get pissed off, I get flustered. Like, that was as close to, I don't even know, as close to, like, I was 9-10 when the Jays won their World Series. I vaguely remember it, but I wasn't anywhere near as invested, right? So that was heartbreaking. I'm not really the type of guy who gets pissed hearing about it again or gets overly emotional again, but it will be a theme of this week. How do you view it, man? Like, is there any redemption to be had? Should they step up and sweep the Dodgers? Or, how do you kind of view this?
No, I mean, I think that if they step up and sweep the Dodgers, the Dodgers wouldn't even care. Like, it's not, I think it'd be just about turning around the season so far. I think that, look, the people are going to react like, it matters. I'm not trying to say like that sweeping a series against the Dodgers would be the same as had they swept the White Sox or sweeping the A's at the start of this year. It just isn't, right? Especially after they did that. That's as specific as I'm going to get about that past October, November. That. I think it would be maybe cathartic for fans, but I think for the players, it probably wouldn't feel like much. They'll have to beat them in October for it to really matter.
Yeah, I think when you play somebody in a World Series, obviously a rivalry develops, and I think we saw that even through the World Series. There were some tense moments. There was also a lot of respect shown what the Blue Jays bullpen did, to kind of show a little love to what some of the Dodgers or one of the Dodgers was going through. Like, I think there's respect there, but I do think there's probably a bit of rivalry there. There's probably some sour grapes on our side. There's probably very little of that on their side. They probably had a really fun night in Toronto after winning that. But I
well, and then they're always like, "Hey," and then they were so nice to Alex Vesia. It's like there's I don't think there's much negativity there.
No, true enough, right? And I always laugh when I think about the interview that Dave Roberts gave after Game 1, because the fans had kind of cheered for Freddie Freeman and then booed everyone else. And he goes, "I'm used to going into other stadiums and in big games, and you get booed, and that's what happens. And you just sort of understand that you're the opponent or you're the Dodgers or whatever." He goes, This was very targeted. You picked one or two guys you really liked and then booed the rest of us. So you were capable of cheering if you wanted to and chose not to." So I always kind of like that quote as well. Like, I don't know that we're at a point yet where I hate the Dodgers the way I would hate the Yankees or hate the Red Sox. I don't care much for the Dodgers after what they did to us, but yeah, I just don't know that it's that bitter of a rivalry yet. But certainly when you play a series like that, one does begin to build. And I'm with you, though. I think a series like this, at this point in the early season, it's more about getting on track for the Jays. And I'm not actually suggesting you're going to go out and sweep the Dodgers. Maybe you will, but have a good series here. Hopefully win that series and sort of steady your own ship has to be the focus right now, more than trying to gain some measure of revenge in April for what happened in October. It's just not going to happen.
And thankfully they have the three guys going that, well, I'm Scherzer, who knows, like he looked really good in his first time out. But, and then you got Gausman and Cease, right? So it's like you've got the pitcher, and these guys, look, we talked about all the negative stuff, right? Like Gausman has been unbelievable to start the season. And Cease stumbled a bit in Chicago, but was incredible in his first start. So like they have guys that have been very good, and their starting pitching actually is among the healthy pitchers. And I don't even really count Lauer in that because he's got the flu.
No, I know.
It actually has been pretty good. So I think that they have. I'm very happy that they're going into this series where they need to right the ship, and it's not, bullpen game Lauer Scherzer, right? It's Scherzer, Gausman, Cease.
Well, and, to that point, like we saw Gausman and Cease set a record or whatever it was since 1901, the two first pitchers of a season striking out 23. I guess Lauer came out and added to that, first three starters in a game. Like the staff has been good, and even to defend the bullpen, I can't remember who it was that had the stat on Saturday that said the bullpen has given up 17 runs, 13 of those are Little. And like, not to pile on that guy, but you kind of go, oh, everybody else has probably been fine. And then like you tack on Heineman throwing it away in 2 straight games, like that's not really the pitcher's fault in either case either. So it's important to keep things in context, and yet it's sports. People get emotional, and that is half the fun of it, and it's just trying to find that balance, right? And this Dodgers series, I think, will be another one where it's hard to keep the emotion out of it. And I kind of hope fans don't, right? I kind of hope fans do get into it, right? And this is a team that beat us last year in the World Series. Get into it, enjoy it, be loud at the Dome, all this kind of stuff. But when the game is over, like you said, kind of pump the brakes somewhere shy of the season is over.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Because, as much as we just said, it's more about riding the ship than the Dodgers. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like it's still a team that just beat you, so you want to go out and show well. And as a fan, you care. Like, look, I cared when they lost to the White Sox, so I'm certainly going to care if they lose to the Dodgers.
Last thing for you then, man. When we look around the AL East, the Yankees are really the only ones who've gotten up and going and are out to a 7-2 start. Everything else, and even outside of the division, looking around the AL, nobody has really been crushing it. Seattle's off, or at least out of the teams that you expect to be there at the end. Seattle is sort of stumbled early. But, when you look around the AL right now, is there anybody, either good or bad, that has surprised you or alarmed you, or as a Jays fan or just as a baseball fan? Like, I'm just sort of curious. It is really early and all this stuff can level out, but there's been, I really thought Boston would get off to a better start than this.
Yeah, I mean, all the Boston fears about their lineup have really manifested for them in the first 9 games. they're counting on a lot on guys, similar to the Jays, where they're counting on guys whose performance is questionable, right? You don't know exactly what you're going to get. That's what the Red Sox are doing. And like the Jays, in the early going, those guys aren't performing. Roman Anthony has been terrible.
Yeah.
And
he's probably anything into this
their
WBC. There's a kind of a narrative going around that the WBC ruined a lot of guys, and look at everybody who went to the WBC and how they're starting rough. Roman Anthony's just obviously you don't have Okamoto or Vlad or whatever a little closer to home. I don't know if I buy anything into it. Maybe it's just coincidence, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that I've always viewed it as more of an issue for pitchers.
Yeah.
Because for hitters though, like if Rene Clement had come out and been terrible to start the season, or Andres Gimenez, I would have understood that a bit more because they weren't playing that much for USA and Venezuela respectively. Mm-hmm. So they could have been behind by just not having the reps. Well, Andres Gimenez has been the best Blue Jays hitter.
Yes.
And Clement has been Clement. He's got the same numbers he always has, where he's just slightly worse than average. So, but for pitchers, I there's actually a statistical somewhat backing for WBC is worse for them. Because it's just early ramp up and it just messes with routines a little bit. But for hitters, I think it's just kind of fluky, to be honest.
Yeah. No, for me, I know everyone was expecting Baltimore to be better than they were last year. I kind of liked their offseason. I'm still obviously not sold on their rotation, but that lineup should mash pretty well. But everything's so early. But obviously Seattle and Cal Rowley has not had a very good start. So it's just interesting to look around and see where things are at and know that, okay, it's not just Toronto. It's not just the Jays that are off to this weird, wonky start. And within a month or 2 months, you may not even remember that. Well, I probably will remember that we lost 5-6 to the Rockies and the White Sox, but it may not matter anymore, right?
Yeah, and like you said, the Yankees look formidable early, but the Yankees looked formidable early last year too.
Sure.
Like they were way up in the division until June. So baseball has ebbs and flows, and talent usually wins out. So I expect all these AL East teams, except, I mean, the Rays are 4-5 like the Jays, but I don't think they're that good.
Yeah.
But I expect all four of Jays, Orioles, Red Sox, Yankees to be in it at the end. I expect the Mariners to be in it at the end. Rangers, Astros fighting there. And then the AL Central, I expect the Tigers to run away with it. But, it's just really hard not to be like, oh, geez, the Yankees are already 7-2. But,
yep.
But they're only three games up.
They're 3 games up with 153 games to go. There's some room here.
I think they can catch up in that time. Yeah.
No, and this is it. Like, what do you think of what's going on down in Houston? Are they just done? Like, they're leading that division now. Obviously, it's 10 games in, 9 games in, whatever it is. But do you buy them being real at all? Do you think or are they just running on fumes and that era is over?
Well, especially because Hunter Brown left with shoulder injury,
right,
or shoulder something. We don't know what yet.
Yeah.
That team, I don't know, because they still have some good players, right? They still have Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve's still good,
mm-hmm,
and like Jeremy Pena is a good youngish player. He's 28, he's not that young, but so they've got some talent on their roster, but I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I think the Mariners are easily better than them.
Yeah. I just wondered whether Houston might have enough to hang around in the kind of wild card race. We'll see. It's a long season, obviously, and who stays healthy and what that's all going to look like. But yeah, for now, I don't know, man. There's still some names down there, like you said, that make you go, "Oh, I remember that." Like they were pretty good, but it is a while ago now, right? Like the days of Houston being the
dominant force.
Yeah, it's sort of getting far in the rear view. But every now and then, a team with some veteran presence like that can hang around and make it interesting one more time. So we'll see how things shake loose. It's going to be a fascinating week. And I guess and I'm not really an optimist. I'm a pessimistic type of guy. But I have referred to the first 9 games of the Blue Jays season as fascinating. And I believe that. I mean that. I've been fascinated by what's happening. Not in a good way, not in a way that makes me happy, but it has been fascinating. I think the next 3 games, we'll see whether Eric Lauer's prediction or comments can ring true, that maybe it snaps you into focus and gets you ready, and I hope that's the case, but it'll be an interesting one. Joshua Hausum, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
One of the best follows on Blue Jays Twitter. We will link to his account on X, whatever we're doing now. We'll link to it in the show notes at talkingaudio.com or wherever you're hearing us right now. But that'll do it for today. Appreciate Joshua Hausum making the time. Hope you enjoyed that. We will link to his Twitter account in the show notes, in the podcast app you're hearing me right now, or at talkingaudio.com if you want to follow along. I'm sure you already are, but if not, the link will be there. And honestly, one of the kind of most... I kind of like him because he's level-headed, but he kind of said he's a little emotional like me. You can tell when he's fired up a little bit. You can tell when he's not digging what he's seeing. So the balance is nice. It makes it validates my feelings a little bit. So make sure you're following along with him on Twitter. Like I said, link in the show notes. We'll wrap it up here. Stay tuned for Kevin Mickey from Sportsnet on Wednesday. That'll be a lot of fun. My name is Matt Robinson. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday.